For 10 long years, Trevor Ingleson, Meghan Markle's ex-husband, didn't say a word. No interviews, no tell-all books, no public attacks. He just lived his life quietly, moved on, built his career, and started his own family. Most people thought he had buried the past for good. But now, after 10 years of staying silent, Trevor has supposedly broken his silence. According to people close to him, he's revealed details that go right to the heart of Meghan's carefully polished image. For a woman who has worked so hard to control her story, this was the one voice she could never fully shut up. The men who knew her before the crown, before the cameras, before the fairy tale. What Trevor supposedly shared wasn't just small stories or bitter words. It was explosive. It was the kind of information that flips a story upside down, exposing not the misunderstood Duchess, but someone completely different. And the moment these words hit the public, Meghan's reaction behind palace-sized walls told the world just how much she feared the truth getting out. Among Trevor's most shocking reveals is one detail so weird yet so telling that it left even those closest to Meghan stunned. Word from Trevor's circle is that before Meghan ever met Prince Harry, before their worlds even crossed paths, she supposedly created a vision board, and right there in the center of it was Harry himself. Think about that for a second. This wasn't romance by chance. This wasn't fate. This was planning. According to those who saw it, Meghan had mapped out her future with Harry long before they were ever introduced. The board wasn't just a collection of wishes. It was a strategy. She had studied the royal family. She knew the path she wanted to take. And she placed Harry not just as a man, but as a target in the middle of her goals. When you hear this, the fairy tale story suddenly cracks. What once looked like love at first sight now feels like a calculated move. And for Meghan, this detail alone is a nightmare. Because if the public believes it, her entire love story with Harry stops being destiny and starts being a plan. If Trevor's vision board story painted Meghan as calculating, another reveal makes her pursuit of Harry seem even more deliberate. Reports suggest that when Meghan first met Prince Harry, she wore none other than Princess Diana's favorite perfume. To most people, this might seem like a coincidence, but to insiders, it was a strategy, a way to stir emotion, to create an instant connection to the woman Harry loved and lost. Harry, sources claim, was stunned. Overwhelmed by the familiar scent, he felt a sense of destiny in their meeting. But those who knew Meghan insist this was no accident. It was preparation. It was part of a larger pattern. The vision board, the marriage for money mindset, and now the perfume, each step carefully chosen to bind Harry to her. For the public, this reveal adds yet another crack in the fairy tale. Because if the first meeting wasn't magic, but manipulation, then what else about their story has been manufactured? Now, here's where the heart of this story takes an even sharper turn. Because Thomas Markle, Meghan's own father, also revealed something striking, that Meghan had her eggs retrieved and frozen. He stated this plainly. I know for a fact that she had frozen her eggs, and he placed this decision during Meghan's marriage to Trevor Ingleson, years before her royal romance. While that reveal is explosive on its own, it doesn't stop there. Rumors from within the family add another layer. Meghan's brother claimed she had a hysterectomy shortly after the eggs were retrieved. If true, this would mean Meghan could not have carried a pregnancy at all. Then comes the money problem. Freezing eggs is only the first step. Keeping them stored is extremely expensive. We're talking about $8,000 a month just to keep them viable. According to the records, after her divorce from Trevor, Meghan no longer had the money to pay those fees. Supposedly, Trevor had been covering much of it. And when that ended, the eggs were abandoned and eventually lost. So, we're left with a disturbing set of questions. If Meghan's eggs were gone, and if she truly had a hysterectomy, then who are Archie and Lilibet? Whose biological children are they? Why was the palace not more transparent about their births? These are not idle questions. They strike at the very heart of legitimacy in a family where bloodline matters more than anything else. Here's where the story gets even more interesting. The most baffling scene in this entire saga may be Meghan's supposed hospital dance. According to the records, Meghan claims she was 1 week overdue. For any woman who has been pregnant, that statement raises alarms. Overdue pregnancies are rarely left alone. Doctors typically induce labor, which is a painful, exhausting process that often requires an epidural. The very idea that Meghan could have been overdue, induced, and still capable of dancing energetically strains belief to the breaking point. Now, add another layer: COVID protocols. At the time this dance supposedly happened, hospitals in California still enforced strict rules. Masks were required indoors, especially in medical facilities. Visitors were limited and restrictions were heavily policed. Yet, Meghan was reportedly unmasked, performing in a hospital environment in full view. So, we're faced with two impossibilities. First, the medical. A woman overdue by a week would almost certainly not be up on her feet, let alone dancing. Second, the legal. The COVID restrictions in place at the time would not have allowed such a scene. When both science and law contradict the story, the question becomes unavoidable. What really happened? Trevor's reveals didn't just land on Meghan, they hit Harry too. And the effect, sources say, has been devastating. According to insiders, Prince Harry has been visibly shaken by what Trevor has revealed. For years, Harry defended Meghan against the press, against the palace, against anyone who dared to question her story. But this time, the criticism isn't coming from tabloids or anonymous whispers. It's coming from the men who shared Meghan's life long before Harry entered the picture. Sources inside Montecito say Harry has been retreating into private corners of their mansion, avoiding Meghan's fury and distancing himself from the storm. One insider put it bluntly: he's tired of defending her. Every time he thinks the storm is over, something new erupts, and this time it's from her past. Something he can't control. Another detail adds to the tension. Harry has reportedly told Meghan to stop blaming the palace for everything. That line, supposedly spoken in frustration, suggests the cracks in their marriage are no longer whispers. They're visible. And while Meghan rages at Trevor, Harry is left with a chilling thought. What if the man who knew her first is telling the truth? When Trevor's words first hit the headlines, Meghan Markle's reaction was immediate and terrifying for those around her. Sources close to her Montecito mansion recall how she stormed into a private meeting, slammed the door shut, and unleashed a wave of fury at her team. According to one staffer, Meghan's voice echoed down the hall as she shouted, "He was supposed to be silenced forever. How did this get out?" The room fell into chaos. Staff members say she accused her press team of betrayal, of incompetence, of failing to protect the very image she had built her entire life around. Some aides, insiders claim, quietly slipped out of the meeting, unwilling to face the storm. They had seen this side of Meghan before, but never at this level. This wasn't just anger. It was fear. A fear that Trevor's words had pierced through the carefully crafted walls she had built around her past. By midday, her legal team was already on the offensive. Letters marked cease and desist were fired off to multiple media outlets. Meghan supposedly demanded that her lawyers prepare a gag order for Trevor, despite the fact that he had never signed a non-disclosure agreement during their divorce. Legal experts quickly pointed out, if Trevor's claims were false, Meghan could have denied them confidently. But instead, her reaction told a different story, one of panic. For years, Meghan Markle built a brand on empowerment, authenticity, and resilience. She positioned herself as the voice of women who had been silenced, the outsider who rose against the odds, the Duchess who refused to be broken. But Trevor's reveals have flipped that story upside down. Instead of authenticity, the world now sees calculation. Instead of empowerment, they see ambition at any cost. Instead of resilience, they see rage. Insiders say her podcasts, her interviews, her documentaries, once viewed as personal and moving, are now being replayed with new skepticism. Audiences are asking, were these heartfelt confessions or carefully crafted performances? But here's the part that Meghan fears most. According to those close to Trevor, what he's revealed so far is only the beginning. Sources claim Trevor has held back the worst details of their marriage, that out of respect or perhaps restraint, he has chosen not to reveal everything at once. But now with the public watching, with Meghan scrambling to silence him, Trevor is supposedly considering his next step, a memoir, a second interview, and this time with receipts. Think about that. The man who stayed silent for a decade while Meghan rewrote their history and painted herself as the victim is now prepared to set the full record straight. And if his first words shook her carefully built empire, what will happen if he truly opens the vault? Inside Montecito, Meghan's legal team is already in overdrive, scrambling to block deals, drafting letters, trying to contain a fire that's spreading too fast to stop. But without a formal NDA, there may be little they can do. And so Meghan stands at the edge of a reckoning. The truth she tried to bury is clawing its way to the surface. The silence she demanded is breaking. The man she thought she left behind is finding his voice. For years, Meghan Markle told the world one version of events, the misunderstood Duchess, the silenced victim, the outsider crushed by the crown. But Trevor's story isn't from the palace, the press, or anonymous critics. It's from the man who lived beside her. The man who saw her before the spotlight, before the title, before the carefully polished image. And now his voice is only growing louder. So ask yourself, if Trevor has spoken, who's next? Because this isn't just a scandal, it's a reckoning. And the truth has a voice now. And it isn't Meghan's.